Welcome to the Jessica Koulianos Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to my podcast. I'm so excited just to get this time with you guys today and share a little bit about my story. I know there might be several people that are listening, watching, that don't really know too much about who I am, why I'm even doing this, but I wanted to share with you my story, what has even got me to this point. What you'll see throughout this whole podcast journey is it really is simplified just to loving Jesus. That's really who I am. I'm a girl who loves Jesus with all of my heart. He really is the foundation of everything that I am. I'm in ministry, yes. I'm a mother, which is one of the greatest things in the world to be. I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend. But more than anything, I'm just a girl who loves Jesus. And I pray that as you hear a little bit about my story today, that wherever you are in life, that you would know that Jesus loves you so, so much, and he wants to be with you more than anything in the world. And I know we're going to talk about ministry a lot through this podcast series. We're going to have so many amazing guests on for this series, and then I'm going to do many other series to come. But I think the theme, what you'll see in all of our conversations, is it really all comes back to loving Jesus. That's really the foundation of everything that we do, all that we are, and it's really what will sustain us forever. So a little bit about me. I come from a ministry family. My family has been in ministry since I've been alive. I'm now in full-time ministry with my husband, Michael. He'll be on the podcast in some of these episodes to come. And what a joy it's been. What an amazing journey it's been following Jesus. But it wasn't always super easy for me. It wasn't always something that I really wanted to give my life to. Growing up in ministry, it was something that when I was little, I loved. But when I got older, especially in my teenage years, I really started to resent the Lord. I resented God. I didn't want anything to do with it. I actually became so hard-hearted that at one point I thought I was an atheist. I didn't even believe in God anymore, which sounds kind of crazy coming from a family in ministry, but I think I saw the flaws of people, and that's probably one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this podcast. And again, I'll get into that a little deeper when I talk about the why of this podcast. But I saw the flaws of people and was too immature to understand that that's not at all who God is, that there's no flaw in Jesus, but people are flawed. And I think through my immaturity and lack of understanding, I allowed the flaws of people to really determine my future, which is so unhealthy for so many reasons. I think sometimes we often give people too much power over our life. We get offended, we get upset, we don't like how people behave, and then through our unforgiveness, we allow that to dictate our walk with God. And that's what happened to me growing up in church. You know, of course, yes, church is messy, but church is beautiful as well. But it was messy in many ways, and it was hard. There was a cost for my family in following Jesus. It wasn't easy. But I didn't understand that Jesus is above all those things. So as a teenager, just seeing the messiness of ministry, it made me run so far the other direction. And I got caught up in all the things that tend to happen, you know, the partying lifestyle, a life of just filling yourself with whatever you can just to numb the pain, and became so hard-hearted, so angry, so closed off to people. I wouldn't let anybody in. I wouldn't get close to anyone. I had a handful of friends that I would let in a little bit into my heart, but that was about it, and became just numb and dead inside just to kind of get by, which is the worst thing you can do. But again, I was too immature to realize that, so just became so numb, so dead, and really wanted nothing to do with God through my whole high school years, middle school years even, and college years. And then through the Lord's mercy and grace, after getting kicked out of a Christian university, believe it or not. That was kind of like my rock bottom at the time. And I think when I hit that low, I just started reevaluating my life. I'm 20 at the time, and I'm thinking, what now? Like, what am I going to do now? I have nothing to show to anyone. I'm just a kid whose dad is a well-known minister, and that's about it. Like, I have nothing to show for myself. I can't even graduate college. It was a real low for me. It was a real turning around point for me. I think sometimes when we go through these rock bottom moments, they can either destroy us or they can actually bring us into freedom. And for me, that was a wake-up call for me, just evaluating my life, thinking, what is my future going to be? Here I'm 20. Am I going to be in this rut when I'm 40? And I knew it was time to change things in my life. And I remember the simplicity of loving Jesus. I thought back to the way I felt when I was little, and I would love him and worship him and sing songs to him and go to kids' church, and the way it made me feel, how it was just so simple, and something in me missed him. And it had been so many years, and I don't have time to get into the depths of my story, but basically, this family took me in Colombia for a couple weeks, and my family gathered around me, but this family in Colombia took me in and prayed over me and took me to their conference, which just even going to a church conference again after all these years was really something. I mean, I went to a Christian university, but I didn't even go to chapel. We got fined every year because I wouldn't even attend chapel because I just wanted nothing to do with Christianity at all. I only went to a Christian university because I just wanted to get away from my parents, to be really honest. Wanted a new city to party in. But I had so not been in church for so long now. So going to Colombia, being with this family back in a Christian environment, it softened my heart again to Jesus. And I gave God all of my unforgiveness that I had towards people and all the things I was holding on to for years. And he set me free in that moment. And then I started to just remember the simplicity of the cross, the simplicity of loving Jesus, the simplicity of following him. And the crazy thing is, I could feel him again. Like when I would talk to him, when I would read my Bible, I started to do that again. It was the first time I had opened up my Bible in so many years. And I felt his nearness. And that's how I was, I just came to the conclusion, my goodness, Lord, you must be real, because if you weren't, I wouldn't be able to feel you like I do right now. I wouldn't feel this mercy over my life like I feel right now. So he met me, and it was so beautiful. And for those of you listening or watching, just know he's right there. All you have to do is turn your affection and your attention to him. He's not going to make you feel like you're ignored, because he loves you so much. And that's how he met me. So I started to turn my life back around to the Lord, and started to follow him again shortly after I met my husband, Michael. And after that, it was just kind of fast-paced, serving God, working for my family at the time, traveling all over the world, doing crusades. Probably would be important to note, my dad is Benny Hinn, a healing evangelist. So we would go all over the world with him. We went to India, saw millions of people attend, got to see the goodness of the Lord through so many amazing things that God was doing. But so we started to travel with my dad and serve Jesus, and everything was going in the right direction, and life was going great. And after Michael served my father for a season, he wanted to start his own ministry in 2008, which is now Jesus Image. And life was great. Life was going amazing, where we were having children. I had just had my third, which is my daughter, and everything felt great. But I think just the cycles of life started to get to me again. We went through some hard seasons with my family, just little things that were going on in life. And instead of going to the Lord, I just kind of started to shelf it again, which was typically how I would handle conflict back in the past. And I started to shelf these feelings and these emotions and all of these things again, instead of going to my source, which is God. And I just became numb. again. And through that numbness, I started not sleeping. I know it's a lot of a story to pack into a 30-minute episode, so I'm doing my best to get all the little details to you guys, but just started to lose sleep, wasn't sleeping, had severe insomnia. I didn't sleep at all. I slept maybe 2 hours. If I slept 4 hours, that was a good night. At the same time, wanted to be a very intentional, hands-on mom. And so I would just have to get up in the morning and still get the kids ready for school and drive them to preschool and kindergarten and have my daughter at home and take care of her and still be a good wife and help Michael with whatever he needed, and just became even more numb because I was trying to put on a happy face and just be the person I felt I needed to be for everybody else. But inside I was completely dying. I was numb again. I wasn't praying. I stopped reading the Bible. I stopped worshiping the Lord. I would still go to services and attend Christian events, but it was like I was there, but I really wasn't there. I wasn't connected. I remember one time my husband came to me after an event we went to, and he goes, "I've never seen you like this. You weren't even engaged in worship, and you weren't there, Jess." And I was like, "Yeah, that's how I feel right now. I don't feel like I can raise my hands out of fakeness. I feel dead inside." And so there were all the red flags, and we saw them, but we probably should have been more intentional and done something about it sooner. So this was years, and eventually it took me to having a complete burnout. And that was a pretty intense situation. I've never had anything like that happen to me before. Pretty headstrong, pretty focused. Didn't really know if I even believed in burnout. I would hear people had it all the time, and I would kind of, in my mind, just say, they just need to push through and get over it and be stronger. So here I was starting to have heart issues, all kinds of things. My health was affected now. Like even the doctors were saying that I was having issues with my heart, my breathing, my sleeping, all kinds of things. So it was actually my emotional health was now affecting my physical body. And so one day I brought the kids home from the grocery store, and I don't remember much else. All I know is Michael called the paramedics, and I had a burnout. And it was another rock bottom moment for me, just like when I got my season that I just shared about, having to leave a Christian university, which was totally my fault, by the way. I deserved that. But it was another rock bottom moment. And in desperation, I knew that the only person that could turn this around for me was Jesus. Like there was, doctors are great and counseling's wonderful when you need it, but I knew that I had to cling to Jesus, that I was desperate. And I understood very well because I had seen so many people in ministry, especially in all kinds of businesses, of course. You see it everywhere, but I had seen so many people in ministry burn out and not finish well. And so I had this realization, if I don't fight to get whole and free, this is going to be my life. And I have a daughter and I have 2 young boys, and I have to fight for them so they understand that they don't ever have to be bound by fear, by all these things that I was bound with. I had such severe fear. Sometimes it was hard to even leave the house. I mean, the fear was very overwhelming, and it was something that I had dealt with for so long. I just felt like this would be my life forever. It started when I was like 3 or 4, and now here I am in my 20s. I'm like actually almost 30 at this point, and still dealing with the things I had been dealing with as a child. And I think I just kind of got fed up. I think sometimes you go through these seasons in life where this tenacity takes you over, and you just kind of feel like, no way, I'm not going to allow this to be my story. I'm not going to allow this to be my future. And so I just got fed up, and I told my husband, Michael, I was like, hey, I will do whatever I need to do to get free. Like if we need to go move out of town, if whatever it takes, I will do that because I want Jesus. I am sick of this. I don't want to be a fake Christian that looks like I have it all together on the outside, but is not living the real life of a Christian on the inside. So we actually moved our family to Bethel in Redding, California for a season. And I met God there. I met the Lord. And yes, I talked to people that were phenomenal, that helped me, that just kind of got it all out. For the first time, I sat with counselors. And, I remember sitting with one of he's actually a friend of ours now. His name is Jay Valatin, but we sat with him as a counselor. And I remember him sitting down with me and saying, let's talk about it. What do you think has brought you to this point where you had a burnout like this? And I remember Michael looked at me, he goes, this is not the time to hold things back. This is not the time to try to protect yourself or any of that. Like, now we just need to lay it all out there because we can't leave this place the way we came. And so for the first time in my life, I got it all out. I just let it out. I mean, I cried, I all the things. And for the first time in my life, I didn't blame anyone for my condition. And my childhood had its ups and downs, and I didn't blame church or God's people or my family or the fact that my dad had to be on the road all the time or the toll it took on my mom and all of that. I didn't talk about that. I looked at myself and said, this is me. These issues are me. On top of that, I would push people away that I loved, including my husband. I pushed everyone away. Anyone that I felt would get too close, that had the potential to hurt me, I would push them out first. It was like a defense mechanism. And it was so unfair to so many amazing people that did not deserve that. My husband being one of them, the major one. And so I just didn't want to be like that anymore. So I took ownership for all those things for the first time and didn't do the victim thing and blame other people for the state that I was in. And there was something so freeing about that. And I remember sitting with Michael and Jay in this meeting, and he said, close your eyes and let's talk about ministry, because we were in ministry. And I think seeing Michael starting to get known in ministry really scared me, because that's what I saw with my own dad. And I realized the toll that can take on a family. So that kind of tripped me out when I started to see Michael become more known. It didn't excite me. It actually scared me a lot. And so I was talking with Jay and Michael, and Jay said, why does ministry make you so scared? And I was like, I don't know. It just does. It scares me. And he said, close your eyes. He said, I want you to say the first things that come to your mind when I say certain words. And I want you to give the first thing that comes to your mind. I said, okay. And he said, how do you think people perceive you if they really knew you? And I said, they'd be disappointed. Meaning they don't know how messed up I feel inside. They probably think that everything's all together on the outside, but they don't know what's really going on inside. So I thought they'd be disappointed if they knew the real me. And then he said, how do you see yourself? And I said, worthless. And when I said that, I started to cry. And Michael started to cry, because I didn't know that I thought that of myself, but that's what was in there. And then he said, when I say ministry, what comes to your head? And I said, pain. And so then I opened my eyes and I had this realization, oh my gosh, I didn't know I looked at myself this way. And I didn't know that I really looked at ministry this way, that it's a painful thing. And I realized how out of order things were in my life. And then I had this realization that it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to do ministry and sacrifice your family. You don't have to do ministry and sacrifice your marriage. You don't have to do ministry and yeah, you do go through pain. I'm not going to lie. I mean, now that we've been leading for years, it's painful. Ministry is not easy, and it's not for everybody. Leading is not always easy. But when Jesus is your source, and this is something I didn't understand at the time, and now, almost 10 years later, I get it. When Jesus is your source, he makes everything that is hard easy when you cling to him. That means that when you have those hard days, and you will, when you have those moments of doubt, and we all will, when you go through the storms, which we will, when you cling to Jesus, you will be okay. You will get through anything. And that's something I really want to hit hit home on this podcast, like through the series, is that if Jesus is with you, there's nothing you can't do, and there's nothing you can't get through. And that was a real turning moment for Michael and I as a couple. We didn't have a horrible marriage before that, but when your wife is pushing you out and not allowing you to love her the way you want to, that's not a wonderful marriage by any means. And after clinging to Jesus in that season, talking to people to help get to the root of why I was the way that I was, it changed everything in my life. It changed me as a wife. It changed me as a daughter, as a friend. It changed me as a mother. It changed everything. And again, counseling and these things are helpful, but if you don't meet Jesus in these seasons, then that's not going to sustain you. That can only get you so far. But I was so desperate for Jesus, I locked away for hours in this season. Like, this was a season of it's all or nothing. This was not the time to play games and just hope that I would get through. No, this was the time to, like the woman with the issue of blood, I just have to have you, Jesus, in this season. I'm not leaving this season without you. And I knew that meant giving him my life, not just a part of my life. He needed every bit of me. And that means every part of me, everything I do, ministry, motherhood, being a wife, all of it. He had to be center of all of those things. And so it changed me in the best way, and it changed my marriage oh my gosh, such a beautiful way. I remember one time, I laugh about this, but this is a good example to just talk about how it changed so much. I remember I was flying home by myself from somewhere, and The Notebook was on the TV on the airplane. And I remember watching the end, and then I started crying. And I've watched that before, and it didn't make me cry the first time I saw it in the theater, but this time I was crying. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, Jess, you're soft now. You actually do have a heart. You're soft. And I called Michael when I landed, and it's I love you so much. I was watching The Notebook, and I was thinking of you and I and what a good husband you are. And it made me so emotional. And I know that sounds so corny, but it was when you didn't have even the emotion to cry and let things out, and now you're crying on an airplane in front of people, thinking about how much you love your husband. It's exciting when you had been numb for so many years before. And ever since that day, I can't say that I don't have setbacks. I can't tell you that I don't have my moments where I go back to how I was for a second and then catch myself and go, okay, no, Jess, you can't be guarded. It's not time to protect yourself. You don't need to do that. Yeah, I have my days of weakness, but now I've figured out what to do to get through anything, and it's Jesus. If I stop spending time with the Lord, if I stop praying, reading my Bible, if I stop clinging to him, I'll go back to the Jess that was bound. I'll go back to the girl that was hard-hearted. We all are just a day away of bad thinking, of bad habits, and I'm so aware of that. That's why every single day I have to be with the Lord. Some days I get to spend more time with him than others. Of course, life is full, but he's my source every single day. There's not a morning that I don't wake up that I don't get into the Word of God. There's not a week that goes by that I'm not talking to the Lord and praying and spending time with him. That has been the thing that has gotten me through. And now, some of you guys, I'm sure, know about Jesus Image and Michael and I, but that's why we're here. This is why we're able to serve the Lord in the capacity that we're serving him in now. You don't want to start serving him in ministry and then all these things come to the surface. And that's what happens a lot of time. You see people, unfortunately, they become leaders in ministry and they start leading in ministry, and then all these childhood wounds that they never dealt with come to the surface, and it hurts the body of Christ. It hurts people. It's just not good. You don't want that. You want to get all of it out first before God can trust you in leadership. And that was my story. And that does not mean that I'm perfect now. But what it does mean is that all those things that held me captive for so many years, I don't deal with them anymore. I'm not bound to those things that I used to be. And that means if I have a bad day, if I have a moment, like anger was a big thing for me. I definitely had an anger issue. I get angry still. I have my moments where I'll catch myself and I'll snap and I'll go, oh my gosh, like where did that come from? And I know that I need to go back and spend more time with Jesus because there's still a lot of self in me. I was with someone recently, and someone said something really nasty about them, and they kind of got mad for a moment. They didn't say anything foul. They didn't attack the person, but their reaction to hearing what somebody else said about them really infuriated them. And I saw them get angry, and I hadn't seen that side in them in a long time. But the beautiful thing is they caught themselves. Like it took a few minutes, they caught themselves and they go, oh my gosh. And the conviction that I saw on this person was actually very beautiful to witness, because the disappointment in their face of displeasing Jesus was just not okay with them. And this person started to talk about it. And I remember saying to them, it's okay. We all get angry. Like, it's all right. And they said, no, but I didn't know that anger was still in there. I didn't realize that I still had that side in there. I need to go be with Jesus because I don't want that in me anymore. So we all have these things in us that will come to the surface, of course, every now and then. But it's what we do with it when it comes to the surface. Do we get alone and be with Jesus so that he can refine us, so we can be more like him? Because that's the goal. The goal is not to look like your favorite minister. The goal is not to look like yourself. The goal is to look like Jesus. He's humble, he's lowly, he's meek. He is the beautiful example of who we want to be and what we should look like. And all of us are so far. But if we cling to him in the cross, he will transform us to be like him. And that means we're quick to repent, quick to say sorry when we get it wrong, quick to own our mistakes and cling to him. If you do that, you can get through anything. I hope you enjoyed this time. It's raining a little bit. I live in Florida, as you know, and so I hope that the rain wasn't too loud, but I love you. Thank you for allowing me into your life just to share a little bit of my story, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the Jessica Koulianos Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, you can find more resources at jessicakoulianos.com. You can also join us in person or online every Sunday at Jesus Image Church. For more information on Jesus School, local and nationwide events hosted by Jesus Image, and resources, visit us at jesusimage.tv.